Hi, and welcome back to our DSP overview series. As we are quite deep into the series already, this today is part 9, and we will be taking a look at the Graphical User Interface, or GUI, and how to set it up and program the GUI. Now, for those not familiar with a GUI interface, or a Graphical User Interface as we mentioned, that is an interface or a platform or a customized graphical representation of some form of control that we want to do over a device. So in this case, we want to set up for the DSP a friendly or a easy to use interface for our clients to be able to access certain features that we would want them to access from the DSP. That means that they don't necessarily have to connect to this specific section of the DSP in order to control items. They can then control that from this remote platform. The GUI is available on, or at least the control of the GUI is available on an application or an app. And we have an app available for both Android and iOS devices. And you could also, by installing, again, the DSP software, access this customized graphical user interface from a Windows PC by just opening that saved graphical user interface file. Now, in terms of the app itself, the app is called DSP Pro version 2, and it's, like I mentioned, it is accessible from both the iOS and Google Play Store. We have the links and the app also available for, especially on Android, available as a download from our website. So you're welcome to navigate to the DSP pages on the website, and you will find it there under the resources and download sections. So you can download the Android app from there, and the iOS app you can download directly from the Apple Store. Okay, so before we get into the app itself, let's take a look at how to actually program the GUI interface and how to access the GUI interface settings. So you can either be connected live to the DSP, or you can also work with the app offline and program the application of the GUI interface offline. So you don't actually have to have a DSP in order to set up a GUI interface. So in order to access the GUI interface, we will navigate to Settings and then User Interface, or you can also use the shortcut key Control U. So once that is opened up, I'm just bringing it over from my secondary screen. This is basically the layout or the interface that you would use to design and set up your customized GUI. So I'll just go through some of the controls here. We can add pages, so you can add multiple pages as well to your interface. So you're not only bound to having one page available, so you can create multiple pages. We can save our design. We can upload a saved design already. The next button is the template, which is the sizing of the device that you want to use. And I'll show you in just a moment how to get the different sizes. You can load customized sizes, or you can actually access an online device that's already on the network and pull the right design file or the right screen size for that specific device if you know which device you will be using to control the system with. Then we have the sync button, which is used to upload the file once it's been created to the actual iPad or Android tablet. We also have a rotate function, so you can rotate from portrait to landscape views or vice versa. And then we have an IP replace button. Now I'll show you again how that is used, but when you program the different commands that you want to implement, each of those buttons or controls needs to be assigned an IP. So I'll show you how to quickly reassign multiple units or multiple program buttons and controls simultaneously to the right IP address. And by doing so, you could also utilize the control interface on multiple DSPs. So you're not limited to controlling a single DSP only. You can also control multiple DSPs. Then we have our undo and redo buttons. And then we have some graphical arrangement buttons, which will align your controls horizontally, vertically, place them, stack them left, stack them right, stack the top, stack the bottoms, whatever the case might be. Spread them out vertically or horizontally and create set spacings in between each control. And I'll show you just a little bit of how to use that. Then just one toolbar down, we get into the actual buttons. So we have a label button, we have a channel button, which is our full channel strip. We have a preset recall button, which is a rotary sort of dial and menu selection dial. You can select multiple presets. We can load images, logos, background images, and things like that you can customize on the unit. We then have button controls. We have check button controls, which will allow you to toggle and also do some system changes. Then there's a router, which is your matrix block. And then we also have individual level indicators, level meters, your gain, which is your volume control, and that's a rotary volume control. And you'll see the difference there between the channel strip and just the individual controls. And then we just have a border icon, which is basically just a little nice graphical way of grouping things together and giving them different colors in different sections. So we'll take a look at some of those as well. And then lastly, we can zoom our interface. Now on the right hand side, once we start placing controls in the actual design window, then we will be able to manipulate its properties from the property bar on the right hand side. So we'll take a look at the details of each button in just a moment as well. Okay, so first things first, if I want to then start designing a interface, as I mentioned, we want to know that we're working with the right template size. So each tablet or iPad or Windows interface might have a different size to it. So it's not, unfortunately, a one size fits all, and we want to make sure that when we place our buttons and controls in the interface that they fit to the device that we are going to be using. So in order to do that, as I mentioned earlier, we can either load an online tablet or iPad and load the right resolution, or we can create one. So I already have a tablet set up, and how it works is as long as I have the tablet or the iPad connected to the same network as my software, I will be able to see that device online. So I have to have the app open, and that tablet or device needs to be on the same Wi-Fi network, or at least be able to communicate with the PC. So in my case, I have already got it set up, and you'll see there's a couple of different presets that I've made before for different sizes of screens. Now I can load one of these from the local templates and basically just load an iPhone iOS screen. So if I apply that, there I have a different framework now that I can load. Or I can go back to an iPad, for instance, and apply that format. And again, it will be determined by the model of tablet or device. Alternatively, I could also look at device templates, and that is for online devices. So the moment I click it, you'll see that it is scanning the network and trying to find any connected devices. So like I mentioned, your device needs to just be online and the app needs to be open. So it's found my iPad. So I can click the iPad. It will give me its IP address as well, because it's already on the same network range. So I need to also make sure that's on the same network. And then I can apply that. And now I have the actual template size of my iPad. So now I know that any controls I place inside this design window will be suited. So I can then maybe start off with creating a couple of controls. So I'm going to place a channel control, and I can keep on clicking and dragging channel controls into the window. But there's a couple of nice little tricks that you can employ. You'll see it's created both as input 1. And as I mentioned on the right hand side here, that's our property window, and we want to be able to change the properties of each of these controls. So when I then click on the second one, I can change that index to 2. So I'm still controlling a channel input, but I want to control channel 2. So now you'll see it's updated my labeling, and this is now channel 2 of my system. But I can also click the unit, right click it, copy and paste. And now what it would do is it would automatically step up the channel count to the next channel. So now I have channel 3, input channel 3. I can also click it and then press on my keyboard Control C and then press Control V in order to copy and paste it a little bit easier. And if I keep on clicking Control V, I can just keep on pasting channel strips as I need to. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we can make this just look a little bit neater by clicking and dragging and selecting all the units together, or all the controls together. Then I can stack them alignment at the top, so I can align all their tops together, and I can make an equal distance between each of them on the horizontal if I want to. So by pressing that, it will automatically space them equally within the distance that I've provided there. I can also make a custom horizontal distance. So let's say, for instance, they were a little bit scattered. If I click them or select them, I stack them at the top again. And by clicking that unit, I can then say I want an interval of 5 between each one. For instance, I can make that value anything I like, and you'll see it will then stack them and put them quite neatly placed together. Now, with all of them selected, I can click and drag them around as I need to. Just maybe on the topic of the properties bar. So on the right hand side, I can also customize or custom input my width and height. For each one, I can change the radius of the corners. So if I make that 0, you'll see that that one becomes very square around the sides. So that's just a little bit of changes you can make to just make it look visually appealing, or change the visual interface or visual look of the control interface. The next item down is my device IP. So as I mentioned earlier, I need to point each of these controls to the correct DSP. So I know that my DSP is 192.168.1.10, but for now I'm going to continue programming my interface without actually changing any of my DSP settings for my controls, and I'll show you why just now. Because I can globally change all of them once I'm finished. Otherwise, I'm going to have to type in the IP address for each one as I program them. So I'm just going to take away our interface there for now, the camera on the iPad, so I can show you on the right hand side here the foreground colors and background color changes you can make. So on the right hand side here, if I have my unit selected or my control selected, I can then also change its background and foreground colors as I would like to. So I can customize all these settings, and I'll show you a little bit about that in more detail just now as well. But I can also change the intensity of my unit or my background of the control. So I can either make it fully solid, or I can make it more opaque, and essentially getting a little bit more of a see-through image there. So I'm going to just leave it at the default for now and continue to program. Similarly, if I now want to make some controls for my outputs, I can select one of these and again press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Now you'll see it's made it item number 7, but I can come here to my channel on the right hand side and press or select my input and change it to an output, and then change it to output 1. And now when I do the same and I press Ctrl C, select it, press Ctrl C, press Ctrl V, now I'm controlling or placing output 2, output 3, and output 4. And again, I'll just do it quickly and make these fit together as well. And now I can move the group around, and I can also select all of them and make sure that they're all stacked tops together. Okay, so now I have some input and output controls. I can also now place a border icon here on the right hand side, as I mentioned, and I can now place the border around these, and in that way I can now change the colors. So I can maybe change all my inputs to be green. I'll keep the border in black, and my background I will change to green. And now you see that it's actually in front of my items here. What I can do is I can right click the unit or right click that control, because I'm covering my volume controls, and I can then send that to the bottom, or send backwards or bring forwards in the stack. So if I send it to bottom, then it fits behind my volume controls. Okay, so now you can see that my controls look a little bit green. And the reason for that is because the opacity has been set to 50%. So if I select them, and I can also select the other ones on the right hand side here for the outputs, I can then increase their opacity to bring them back to the original color if I want to, I could also leave them opaque a little bit, but we'll just set them for now as full solid color so there's no opacity, so they don't present greenish as they did earlier. Now, just to maybe build a couple of more items on here, I'm going to go ahead and build a few presets and a few buttons and some other controls, and we'll speed up the process, and then we'll show you how to actually upload the design to the tablet. Now that we have a basic design file, we now need to make sure that our controls that we've placed on the design or in the interface actually connects to the correct device, or at least the correct DSP, in order to be able to control the device. So as I mentioned before, I intentionally left out to change the individual IP address for each of these control items that are controlling our DSP, because we need to assign each of these control items so that they can look at the correct DSP device. But as I mentioned in the beginning, there's an easy way to do that, and that is the IP replace button. So we know that our standard IP that is defaulted to each control item is 127.0.0.1. So we can now go ahead and easily replace all the IPs that are in a specific range to a new IP address. I can go ahead and type in my source IP address 127.0.0.1, and that's selecting the quick replace IP address. And I can now make my destination my IP address of my DSP. I can then also check if I want to make it all pages or just a single page. Now we only have one page set up so far, so we can leave it on all pages. And once I press OK, it will update all the control commands, all the controls to the correct IP address. And there you go. So that's my new IP address for each of my control devices or my control items, and it is now assigned to my DSP, and you can see that it's assigned all of them simultaneously. The other part that I did not do before is to actually assign any controls to the camera section here. If you were to do this, that's quite simple. I can select the specific control I want to do. I'll go over to my command section of that property for that button. I would add a command line. I would select whether it be UDP, so IP control, or RS-232 or 485. So let's say, for instance, I have UDP control, so I have IP control over my unit. I would select whether I'm using ASCII or hexadecimal coding. I would place the command inside the command section and then also type in the IP address. So let's assume my camera is this IP for now, and I would also assign that IP address or that port for that IP, and in this case it would be 1259, and that's it. I would just basically fill in those command lines for each of these buttons in order to have that button control the external device over Ethernet or over IP. Okay. If we are happy and have designed our program and our layout, we can then go ahead and upload this program to our tablet. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that process. So the process for upload is quite simple. We will be selecting the sync icon at the top here of the menus. I'm going to also just show you on camera the tablet again. I will then press sync, and the system will automatically scan for any online devices. So there we go. It has found my tablet again. I can then, if I have multiple devices, select all my devices, or I can select just my single device. So it really doesn't matter in this case because we only have one. And then I will press the sync button, and you will see that it will automatically sync. And there we go. So my tablet has now synced this design file to its user interface. So I'm going to go over to the tablet and then show you how that operation works as well. Okay, so here we are now on the tablet, and now you'll see this is the home screen for the iOS version. On Android, you will not get the two demo modes, but once I go into my document, you'll see now it will upload and open the design file that we've uploaded to the tablet. If you had multiple pages in your app, you would be able to click on the page button on the left there, and then you will see page 2, page 3, page 4, or whatever friendly name you've given those pages in there as well. There you go. That's it from us for this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a like on this video if you are enjoying this content. And also don't forget to activate the bell notification so you can be notified of any future content and videos that get uploaded. And we'll see you on the next one.